Okay, recording in progress. So, my name is Josephine Turner, and I am the Sustainability Community Cabinet Member for Cobb County District 2, Commissioner Jerica Richardson, and I handle the sustainability engagement part, especially from the community perspective. So SIP is Sustainability Environmental Advocacy Project with two main goals. I'm gonna share this briefly our this screen. That is with respect to soil, water, and air. So as I said, we've done some presentations before, and tonight we will be honored to hear from Keep Cobb Beautiful, because this organization is very much key to everything that we have talked so far, and the integration of the plans, ideas, that's going to happen, and how it is going to be operationalized and going to be implemented with respect to the environmental justice agreement that Commissioner Jerica is having in her legislative agenda. So for reference for tonight, this is already the welcome message. So welcome everyone. And if you could please just say your name. And if you're part of an organization, we would love to know what organization that is so that we can save the chat messages. And if you have questions for the night, please also share that in the chat message or later on after the presentation of Keep Cobb Beautiful. So tonight's presentation will be given to us by Dr. Jenkins and also Miss Kimberly White from Keep Cobb Beautiful. We will have the discussion afterwards, hopefully by 7:40, and we're gonna take some time to discuss and also the full insight of Commissioner Jerica. Before Dr. Jenkins will talk, can we hear some greetings from Commissioner Jerica to everyone?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, thanks so much for joining the meeting. And Arjho, truly appreciate your efforts on this and keeping these going and making sure that we're pulling in engagement from different areas around the district, and that we're able to keep that information compiled, and just appreciate your effort on that. Certainly excited about this session because this is Cobb's very own, Cobb's finest, with Keep Cobb Beautiful and just overall sustainability, which I still say sustainability office because we're really aiming for that holistic viewpoint for how we can approach it, not just as a one-off, but integrated within every department across the county, how we can be more sustainability minded, and how those master plans can really coexist with one another. We have some real passion on the county side, and so we're going to hear a little bit of that tonight, but certainly just for those that are new to the call, this is really the chance to learn about the different organizations in the community, hear what they're doing, hear how to get engaged and active. I'm going to be listening in for where some of those things can align or where I can scale it up. This is a bit of a unique call because it is inside the county, but it really is that opportunity for me to listen to where we can synthesize the different efforts across the board. And, obviously there are a lot of savings when we can collaborate on these things, and they're more effective as well. So that's really my purpose. Arjho also mentioned what my two biggest objectives are for this effort, for this outreach effort in the first place. And the first one is the Environmental Justice Agreement, which in a nutshell, it's a list of policies, procedures, and investments that the county can make in order to empower residents on their water, soil, and air. So that contains a lot of different aspects, from waste management to beautification to litter to energy to health, all of that stuff. So really, when we approach the Environmental Justice Agreement, the idea is to really come up with a draft that we can rally behind as a community and then make that commitment to the community. And then the other objective is the Sustainability Awards, which of course we do. There's already something in place where we acknowledge some real efforts taken that are occurring within the community on that. And the Sustainability Awards is the idea to just up our game a little bit in that front, and really turn Cobb County into the thought leader, a global thought leader in this space by attracting all types of businesses and groups and advocates, some of the new cutting edge aspects to this space into the community and let them lead or let them be a part of the overall movement into the future. I really believe that Cobb County can serve in that capacity. We have the right infrastructure, we have the right passion, and that is a mantle that is missing in today's world. Where do you go to get the latest on that front? And so we can do that, and that would be the other objective in terms of what I want to see come out of this engagement effort. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Arjho. Of course, stormwater is a part of sustainability. Thanks, Jim. Jim is one of our frequent attendees too, and has been making sure that stormwater stays up top. I know in our last meeting, we talked about green infrastructure. I've got several books, even before I was put in this seat, but certainly approaching it holistically is the big goal there. So now I'll turn it over to Arjho to continue on with our programming efforts for the evening. But thank you all for attending and caring about your community.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Jerica Richardson. Your vision is slowly really happening. And that's why we need this very, very vital stakeholder for the night. I'm gonna turn over the presentation to Dr. Jonathan Jenkins and Ms. Kimberly White from the Sustainability, Waste, and Beautification Department for Cobb County. So this is now a county level government. And for those that have been attending this series of webinars, especially organizations, it is not too late. This is the time that we get to know how we as communities can be engaged by the county level, especially on water, soil, and air concerns. So Dr. Jenkins, Ms. Kimberly White, it's yours.
All right, thank you, Arjho. As Kimberly is taking control of the screen to show our presentation, I will put out a disclaimer. So even though my department or our department has the title sustainability, we're sustainability, waste, and beautification, but even though we have the title for sustainability, we are definitely not the only department in Cobb County that deals with sustainability. As a matter of fact, something that we just recently started working on, we are putting together our list of projects that the county will apply for an energy and efficiency block grant. I believe the Biden administration has set aside, I think it's $509 billion total for this grant. So 2 weeks ago, we had our kickoff meeting, and we had water system was there, a person from waters representing both water and storm water. We had agency head, our director of Department of Transportation, the director of support services, which has property management under her, our director of community development, sent somebody to represent. And of course, I'm part of, our department is actually part of the Public Services Agency, and my boss, Dr. John Gibson, is online with us tonight. And we're coming up with our various lists. And when you start talking about specific for soil, air, and water, definitely for our department, go to the next slide, Kimberly. We definitely have impact in all of those areas. Initially, I put this presentation for the Board of Commissioners, I believe last year. We modified it a little bit for tonight. These are the areas that we're going to cover specifically for this presentation, but I will be touching on the things that Commissioner Richardson mentioned earlier. You can go to the next slide, Kimberly. Well, start off with this slide because it shows specifically what Cobb County government and my department are responsible for as far as various services that we offer. The top slide on the right is actually our vegetative waste, recovery. So, keeping trees and limbs and vegetative waste, out of our waterways, and decomposing in areas that we don't want it to decompose is very important to us in the county. So we have a vegetative waste site that takes several tons of materials, every year. We measure, and it actually grinds the material, and then this material is either taken to paper plants to be converted into paper, or it's taken to power plants throughout, mainly in South Georgia and some in Alabama. The middle picture, that shows our transfer station where garbage is taken by garbage haulers, because in Cobb County, we don't have any active landfills. So all of the trash that's collected in the county, has to be taken to a transfer station where it's offloaded from a garbage truck and then loaded on the back of a tractor trailer to be taken, to landfills in either Forsyth County, Cherokee County, and even out of state. Some of, probably half of the waste from this facility goes to, Alabama. There are a total of 6 transfer stations in Cobb County. This one is specifically owned by Cobb County government. So here again, now we're talking about where, trying to keep trash and litter off of the road, all of that's collected by our Department of Transportation and by our department, taken to this facility and taken away. And the bottom picture shows a recycling facility that is also owned by the county, but operated by, an external entity, where their primary focus is cleaning up, paper and cardboard so it can be recycled and made into new paper products. But while they're doing that, they're removing all of the plastics, the aluminum, the ferrous metals, all of those types of items, and those things are recycled. So for this item, providing leadership and support and overseeing contracted daily services, I basically deal with a general manager from 3 different companies to ensure these facilities operated correctly. You can go to the next slide, Kimberly. And then I mentioned that we don't have any operational landfills in the county. Cobb County has only ever had 3 landfills, and they were all owned and operated by Cobb County government. We do have 3 closed landfills, and typically, that these mountains, anytime you see a mountain and it doesn't have any trees on it, that's probably not man-made. It's been manipulated in some form or fashion. So up under that mountain is trash that will be is decomposing now, and will probably still be decomposing, this time 30 years from now. So it's generating methane and other gases. It has the potential to affect groundwater. All of these things that we as a county ensure that we keep from happening or mitigate it from happening as much as possible. So at some point, when this landfill is no longer, or these landfills are no longer producing methane or pose any type of threat to human health or safety, we will be able to convert them or use this land for other things. So the picture at the bottom where it shows a soccer field, then that is the ultimate goal, for these landfills. Like I said, all of the landfills in the county are closed, and the county owns and we monitor and maintain these landfills. Next slide, please. To provide waste reduction programs in accordance with. So our department also permits all of the garbage haulers, and to be able to pick up, garbage. Then, all of the vehicles have to meet certain requirements. The garbage truck, I think in that picture right there, I think that was about a $280,000, garbage truck when it was initially, purchased. So anybody who wants to have a garbage or collect garbage in Cobb County has to go through us. They have to show that all of their equipment meets all of the required specifications. We also, I guess, coordinate all of the county's recycling program. So the middle, picture shows, where we have recycling containers or recycled drop spots. The bottom picture, actually, I believe, is from one of our recycling events. Kimberly will be talking about both, of those items, in just a minute. Next slide, please. And to promote stewardship of communities through litter prevention, beautification, recycling, and environmental education. Now, that's definitely Kimberly right there. So I'm not going to steal, any of her thunder, but that is the arm where we are educating the public, educating students, get into schools to educate them about recycling, about environmental stewardship, about waste, reduction methodologies and programs that, can be implemented, and also beautification and how that is very important, for our communities. Hopefully I didn't leave out anything. You go to the next slide. Some of the challenges that, just from the trash side. And when I talk about the trash side, we're also talking about protecting those waterways, protecting our environment, from illegal dumping, from litter buildup, from trash getting into streams that go to rivers that, go elsewhere. So we always have to start at basically at the front end, and that's getting the trash picked up and moved correctly. And we have several deficiencies in the county, but it's not specifically for, for Cobb County. We're not the only ones that are having these type of issues. But in Cobb, when I first started in '99, there were approximately 80 garbage haulers that could select in the county. And because you had so many garbage haulers, they basically, I guess, self-monitored, or you had QA just because you had so many different garbage haulers. If one was not doing, what they need to do, not providing, adequate service, then they could easily be replaced. There were so many different options. Now the county is down to between 20 and 25 garbage haulers. So at this point, some areas of the county, there's not going to they're not many choices or more than one choice. We have limited flow control on the trash and recyclable materials, which means we don't necessarily know where all of the trash and the recyclable goes. Some of it's going to our transfer station, some of it's going to one of the other 5 transfer stations, some of it is going outside of the county. Some of the garbage haulers are very small. I mean, you just have the owner operator is operating the company from the front seat of the garbage, the truck. So you don't have, basically a customer service to respond to issues, since the garbage hauler can't necessarily do it all. And hauling residential, pushback, which I'll get to, on maybe the next slide. Next slide, please. So another challenge / proposed solution to address the challenges is updating our code. The main code for solid waste in Cobb County was written in like 1994. There's been a couple of amendments since then, but as I said, you had so many haulers back then, it was a different, environment. So now we are looking at ways to put more requirements and more control in our amendment, in our ordinance, to help us, deal with, things like people that live on dead end streets not having garbage service because garbage haulers don't necessarily want to service, that street. And we're looking at ways to be able to ensure that, it's equal, or, you have equal availability for trash and recycling services, throughout the county. All right, next slide, please. We do what used to be called a solid waste management plan every 10 years. I mean, we're actually working, on a draft of items that we want specifically put into our 10-year sustainability waste and beautification plan. And we think, of course, at this time, the way things are now, 10 years is basically too long not, to go without looking at the plan. So moving forward, when we do finish working on our update to our 10-year sustainability waste and beautification plan, we will, be, I guess, monitoring it with input from various stakeholders, no less than, say, every 2 to 3 years, and executing the plan and having appropriate staffing with some of the other things that we talked about, when we gave this presentation, to the Board of Commissioners. Next slide, please. All right, so real quick on this one, just wanted to show how the population, in Cobb County has changed, over the years. And we highlighted a couple of specific dates. So at the bottom of this chart, you'll see basically, a timeline. And then on the vertical axes on both the left and the right are just, the population. So our department at that time actually was the solid waste division, basically all the way up until in the 2000s. So we were a division of the water system. But as you can see, in the 70s, 80s, I mean, it was less than 300,000, people living in Cobb County, at that time. But we had, basically, some almost exponential growth, over time. One of the inflection points shows in 1995 in an effort to increase recycling I guess the thought process was that the county was going to invest $26 million to build a compost facility. And then if material was being taken to the compost facility, that was to ensure that, that meant that recycling was being taken care of. But, that was definitely, not necessarily, fully true. The county had to assume operation of the compost facility, right in 1999. And that's why I was actually initially hired for the county. So my first position was plant manager for this facility. We improved it. We got it where it was working, not having fires and stuff like that. But still, the decision was made in 2009 to privatize out the facility, all of our facilities, which I showed you basically in that first slide when I showed you the vegetative waste site, the transfer station, and the recycling facility. So up until 2009, the county operated all of those facilities. And the next, I guess, inflection point is at 2020 is when our department as it is now was founded. But as you can see, population, is continuing to go up. So I'm sure by the next, audit, when they look at, our population, we'll probably be at least, 50 to 70,000, more, residents, in the county, by then. But with the increase in population, we've had increases in litter. We've had, of course, increases in illegal dumping, increases in, when I say illegal dumping, I have to quantify that because, the couches, the chairs, they're bad, but, people that dump chemicals, which can seep into our groundwater, those things are very bad. That's one of the reasons why this week, and Kimberly will be talking about this also, we are having our household hazardous waste event where we provide a venue for people to get rid of things, for free, as opposed to, going out in the woods behind their house and just dumping them, into a field or something. Next slide, Kimberly. I see questions popping up, so I'm definitely going to try to save, some time, forward to be able to answer these, at the end. This right here is just a comparison showing, I guess, where Cobb County is compared to other counties, municipalities, I guess, of equivalent, size. So we show that, for this, at the time of, when we put these numbers together, we thought we had 740,000 people, was our population in the county. On average, we spent about $2.58, I guess, per person in the county, as far as addressing the issues, if you look at it, from that standpoint. And that's based off of the size of our department, the fact that we privatized out facilities. When we did all of those things, we did reduce our internal capacity to be able to handle things. So we're not necessarily comparing, apples to apples as you look at this, because when you go to the city of Atlanta, they have a different format. So there's more, they have more staff to be able to, address the actual collection of materials and where those materials go. Mecklenburg, South Carolina, they have operational landfills just like DeKalb County does. And you definitely see where it jumps up because DeKalb County provides basically a full product of services, for their citizens, as far as operating transfer stations, operating landfills, collecting garbage, large item, bulk item pickup, and all of those things. So, all right, next slide. And that just about does, that pretty much does it, for me. But the only thing I will add is that, over my time, with the county, how we have addressed issues, relative to, protecting, our soil, protecting our waterways, protecting our air has definitely changed. Some of that has been in conjunction with the policy changes, what we get from Environmental Protection Division, Environmental Protection Agency. Definitely say that Cobb County is viewed as one of the best, of course, in Metro Atlanta as far as the programs that we have and the measures that we take to protect both the citizens and the environment. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kimberly.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Kimberly White. I work with Dr. Jenkins and also Dawn Smith, who's on the call as well. So hi, Dawn. I'm the executive director of Keep Cobb Beautiful, but I'm also the division manager for sustainability, waste, and beautification. So Keep Cobb Beautiful has been here for almost 40 years. So that's awesome because I believe the first affiliate that got started in Georgia was in Macon, and we probably have been around, affiliates in Georgia have been around for about 42 years. So we're kind of right in line with that. Okay, so what do we do? I know most of you have probably heard about Keep Cobb Beautiful. We have 3 main focus areas: litter prevention, community greening and beautification, and then of course, waste reduction and recycling. So everything that Dr. J just told you, or Dr. Jenkins, sorry, that's my nickname for him. Everything that Dr. Jenkins just said to you, and why does this matter, and what do we do in the community? So you're looking at a map right now of the United States of all of the landfills that we currently have that are in operation. They are in the gray, those are the gray or white dots. And all of the landfills that are completely closed, but we still have to monitor them, they're the red dots. What's really important to know is that we have to come up with ways to figure out how to address these issues with how to handle waste in our communities, especially since, as you can see from this map, the majority of the red dots lie on the eastern coast, or kind of, closer to the, I guess the Midwest. That's important to know because if you see there's a lot of space that they don't have these dots, and it's because they have other ways of how to handle their waste. So we're having to try to catch up to what some other areas in the country have already been doing. What are our recycling rates in Cobb County? Well, this is good news. This means that people in Cobb County are focused on recycling efforts, and they care about they care about the community. And so what we're looking at here, it's the green area or teal area. That's kind of, those are like really high concentrated areas of recycling that's happening, whether that's curbside or whether people are dropping off to like a drop-off location. And then as you go deeper into like the darker brown, you have a lower percentage of participation. But as you can see, for our county, we have a lot of people that, whether they're in either the teal, the light green, or the white area, that we have a lot of people that want to recycle. So what do we do in the community? We do environmental education, of course, like I said before, and that's our school tree program. We do our virtual recycling series. We have a Cobb Library education series that we do every summer. We're doing it this summer as well. We have a few sessions that will happen in July. Of course, we have our beautification and community greening. That's our Cobb Trees program, Dig in the Dirt. I'll talk a little bit more about all these programs in a second. Our Vista program is kind of a new program. Recycling and waste reduction, of course, our Bring One for the Chipper, Hefty Energy Bag, community recycling events, our HHW, which is happening this Saturday. So if you happen to have paint or batteries or light bulbs or anything like that that you want to get rid of, please feel free to come out to Jim Miller Park from 9 to noon. And then, of course, our litter prevention. This is a big one for us. So we do Adopt a Mile, our litter index survey, our KCB crew cleanups and things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit about recycling. So as I mentioned, you have a lot of people in the community that want to recycle. However, some of the areas, everyone wasn't necessarily recycling right. So we had some communities in District 2, happened to be one of them, that we had to close the recycling locations because they were really just, we were just overwhelmed with the amount of material that was coming into those locations. So we had to adjust that. We do still have some other drop-offs, and District 2 still has the Smarter Recycling Center where you can drop off material. However, we are working on some solutions to try to get recycling back, more widespread in the county. What are some of our challenges? As I mentioned, the increased usage of the recycling drop-off. We've collected, almost 775,000 pounds of recycling. We don't have a lot of drop-off options, and our ordinance has made it pretty tough for recycling to be enforced. And so this is an image of what one of the areas look like. And so we could not keep managing this way. So we had to adjust on how we handle our recycling drop-off locations. Some of our other challenges we were limited on the number of events and programs due to the pandemic. We had some situations where it was really hard to kind of get into the normal areas that we do events at. So that has been a challenge. Some recycling disruptions. I know, I'm in this business, have been doing it for many years, but there are times where things change quite, quickly, and people are often confused about what can be recycled and where it can be recycled. And so those are some of the challenges that we deal with. Then of course, a limited budget for programs and events. So this is a really important slide to look at, waste characterization. We're doing a waste characterization study. What's important to note is that the majority of the material that can be recycled is, if you see this on the left-hand side, the list: paper, plastics, food can be composted, yard waste, textiles, glass, metals. Really everything but diapers. And the reality is that this is the biggest snapshot, the most material that ends up in landfills. This is where it comes from. Our recycling rate in the state of Georgia is a little under 30%. The recycling rate across the US is about at average, somewhere between 30 and 32%. However, you can see if we just captured all of our paper alone, that in itself is 41% of the waste stream, which means that we could be doing so much better overall, but in any community, but definitely for our own community as well. So what are some of our proposed solutions? So an amendment to our ordinance, which we're currently working on, enforce mandatory recycling. We want to resume some of these events at Jim Miller Park, which we are currently doing. We will have the event this Saturday. And upgrading the recycling drop-off center on county services. So I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone that's on the call, that's administration in Cobb County government, because we do have a plan in place, and we will be able to upgrade that location across the street from our office, and we'll be able to take more material there. So we're really excited about the opportunity of having what I call a mini charm center. I'm not so sure if everyone else calls it that, but we're going to get everybody on board with that one. And then we are moving towards 2 household hazardous waste events. So these are some of our programs that we're currently already doing and we're working on that kind of help us tackle some of these issues, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard of the Hefty Energy Bag program. This is a program where we're able to take materials like plastic shopping bags and plastic utensils, straws, lids, cups, just all kinds of stuff that a lot of times ends up in our regular recycling bins. It shouldn't, because it doesn't belong there. And so what ends up happening is that material contaminates the other material that could be recycled pretty easily. And so because of that, we have this program. It's really awesome. We were chosen, a bunch of people across the US applied for it. We were chosen with only 2 locations, Cobb County, Georgia, and then Boise, Idaho. It has since done much, but it's done very well and has expanded even throughout the metro Atlanta area. So like Gwinnett has it now, the Charm Center in Atlanta has it. And that's all because of the awesome residents in Cobb County participating in the program and really showing what we can do with this material. We're able to take this material and turn it into diesel fuel, oil, and wax. And we also are able to use it to turn into an aggregate that we use to make building blocks out of. And we actually have some of those blocks in Cobb County, and we'll be building a demonstration recycling building using those blocks. So I'm really excited about that as well. Some of our other programs that we have are our Cobb's Trees program and our Arbor Day. So we plant trees to beautify our areas. We also do our Dig in the Dirt. This is a program where we give funding to schools and we work with them hand in hand to build gardens where the students are able to take care of the gardens. Of course, we have our community recycling events, our household hazardous waste, bring one for the chipper. That's where you bring your after the holiday, you bring your trees and we can chip them and turn them into fish habitat and also mulch that's given back out to the community for free so that they can use it to plant gardens. And then we also have our medication disposal days that happen twice a year, usually in the fall and the spring. Littering statistics, this is important to know as well. 75% of people who have admitted to littering in the past 5 years, but 8 out of 10 motorists, they believe that people litter because it's easier than saving the trash to discard later. So these are all kinds of statistics that are really important to know why, it's kind of like digging into the psyche of the population as a whole and why we have so much litter around and how we can really effectively eliminate it. So this is our a map of our county. As you can see, this is a heat map that shows where we get a lot of phone calls or reports about litter in a particular area. So obviously when you go into the red and you go into the yellow, we're getting more reports in those areas, but every place that you have a shading, we're getting reports in that community. These are our litter index routes. So we're required to do a litter index survey. We always ask for volunteers. It will happen this year on July 8th. So I will send that information to Aaliyah and then she can, or you, Arjho, as well. And you guys can disseminate that. If you would like to participate, we drive around the county and we score the county on a number of, attributes. So things, we have a list of categories that we score the county on. So things like litter or pedestrian safety, or if we see a graffiti. And so these are the routes that we take to do that. And then if you overlap, these black lines are where our Adopt a Mile groups are. So you can see the Adopt a Mile groups often overlap the areas that we have the litter index survey doing a drive around. This summer, though, we have an awesome opportunity. We were able to get a grant to get an intern to help us identify what we kind of consider kind of like hot pocket areas where we're having a lot of issues with litter. And then that particular intern is going to be working with us this summer to identify some effective strategies that we could implement that will help us with this. So obviously some of our challenges, we have limited staff. We have collected, over the time frame that we did this short study, like over 2,000 bags of litter. And we also have fewer new Adopt a Mile memberships. So we had some really long-term Adopt a Mile groups that we've had for a very long time. This program has been around for almost as long as we've probably been in place, 30 some years. And we have some groups that have kind of fallen off. The people have gotten older. They can't keep up with that. So Dawn on my staff, she works really, really hard to get a new Adopt a Mile members. So if you happen to want to be an Adopt a Mile member, or if you know someone that wants to, we give the supplies, for free out to residents, and you'll get a sign up, and then you agree to do like a cleanup once per quarter. This is our litter index survey. This over the years. So over the last few years, as you can see, we were trending in the wrong direction for a few years. A 1 is a perfect score, and a 4 is, like literally the worst it could be. So the closer you get to 2, the worse it is, because that means that people are obviously scoring it a 3 or 4 to pull it, to that higher number. So in 2018, we were 1.58 total for the whole county. And then in 2020, that was a really tough year for everyone for lots of reasons, but it ended up being a 1.76. We were able to come down a little bit at 1.71, and we're about to do this again in a few weeks. So we'll see what our score is for 2022. Then our educational campaign, we do a few things, our litter pledge, our green business pledge. We've got our virtual bingo game. So that's fun. You just have to admit to, doing some recycling things over the summertime, and then you join us for our virtual bingo game and people win prizes. So that's a lot of fun. We have our plogging events, which if you like to either exercise outside or jog, I mean, probably not today or anytime this week since it's like 105 degrees, but we do our plogging events, which is like picking up litter while jogging. That's what it stands for. And you don't have to jog, you can walk, but we do these events and it's a lot of fun just to kind of get out, meet your neighbors and clean up the area. We're also looking at surveillance cameras to catch people littering, because we notice that this happens a lot along kind of the main thoroughfares that go through our county, especially crossing county borders into another county. And then also, finally, our GIS litter mapping project. And this is what we're going to be working with our summer intern for this summer. Some litter prevention programs. Like I said, the surveillance camera, Adopt a Mile. This is a picture of someone plogging. Our VISTA program, this is our volunteer and service to America. We have food insecurity zones in Cobb County. And so what we are able to do is identify areas that have this food insecurity zones, and then we're able to plant gardens there. And we train the residents on how to take care of the gardens. And then they have access to fresh fruits and vegetables for free within walking distance of where they live. This is one of our annual infographics that I give out. I send it to all the commissioners just to kind of keep everybody up to date on what's happening with KCB and where we are with our recycling and our litter updates. And then I'm finally to my last slide. So this is what we are looking to do, innovating into the future. We would love to have many charm centers around Cobb County to be able to collect things that are hard to recycle, right? So of course, all your regular plastics and your cans and all that stuff, but as well as batteries or paint or tires or just a number of items that are traditionally just hard to figure out what to do with. An Adopt a Green Spot program. Everyone doesn't want to adopt a full mile, so we want to implement just, like if you want to adopt like a roundabout or something like that. Targeted recycling programming, county facility recycling, glass recycling drop-offs, drop spots, implement waste conversion initiatives, multi-unit housing recycling. This is important because we do have a lot more high rises and townhomes coming into play. And being able to implement recycling for them would be great. Big belly containers. If you don't know what these are, feel free to give me a call and we will go into detail about them. I love these things. They can communicate back with us and tell us when they're full, which is really cool. Increase beautification and environmental efforts, integrate an ordinance into a 10-year solid waste plan, and then eco-innovation incubator for waste processing businesses. This is what I'm thinking this group would be really great at, is kind of brainstorming and identifying businesses or ideas that would work really well to progress and get Cobb County moving forward, so that we are the innovators in this Metro Atlanta area, really driving that sustainability initiatives forward. Okay. So I am done now. Does anybody have any questions?
I think we have a lot in the chat. So before we could
Okay.
wrap up, I don't know if Dr. Jenkins, while you were doing the presentation, have gone through some of them, and especially the ones from Mr. Jim Wallace. He really have some very specific and detailed questions.
Okay.
And Thomas Warren too.
All right, so what's the first one? I want to make sure I didn't miss it.
Yeah, I would say let's just go down the list.
Mhm. All right, let's see. What is being done to capture methane from the landfill so it doesn't enter the atmosphere? Is that the first one?
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, so actually, that's actually one of the projects that we're trying to get into this energy and efficiency block grant that we're applying for. In the past, when we've done studies at our landfills don't produce enough methane where we could use it to, power generators to produce electric power. And it doesn't produce it consistently from any one particular spot to be able to, tie into a gas line or pump it out and refine it. But, what we could do and what we would have used the block grant, for would be to put an extraction system with a refining system and be able to tie it into the natural gas line to build to either well, for the most part, we have two of our landfills are right off county services and now Bishop. So we definitely believe we produce enough gas that we would be able to use that to heat our buildings and heat the prison or the jail, and also to be able to cook with. So hot water heaters and for cooking and for heating in the buildings right there off county services. So that takes care of us there. Our biggest landfill is actually on the border between Paulding County. It's in Atworth on the border between Paulding County, and Cobb County. That's that one we're actually still working out what we can do as far as the method. Hopefully that answered the question, Jim. All right, Kimberly and I will both take the next one. Will Cobb County ever recycle glass?
Well, here's the thing. We do recycle glass, and and I guess the next two questions kind of fall into this. So glass, here's the thing about glass. A long time ago, people thought that if we put everything together and did a single stream recycling, we would be able to capture more material. That was true, we did. However, glass contaminates other things and other things contaminate glass. However, glass is highly recyclable. We have like 4 glass fiber plants here. One sits on the border of Alabama, so we kind of claim it. So we have like 5. And then we've got we also have glass bottling. And it's really important to know that glass is something that can be recycled an infinite amount of times and it never loses its integrity, let's say like paper or plastic. And so you can't mix it. That's the reason why you can't put it curbside. It was pulled out of curbside many, many years ago. And so you can drop it off though. So it can be dropped off to a few locations, one on county services at 1775. That's like the customer convenience drop off. It can be dropped off at Smyrna. It can't be dropped off at Jim Miller Park, which I did see that on here, but it can be at the Smyrna Recycling. And then far north, I think Kennesaw also allows people to drop off glass there. We are working on some options to give people the ability to drop glass off in more locations around Cobb County, but for right now, those are the locations where you can drop glass off.
One of the biggest issues with glass is that there's one main glass recycler in all of Metro Atlanta, mainly for Georgia, and that's Strategic Material, which has a couple of locations. So regardless of where glass is being collected, for the most part, it's all being taken to Strategic Material. So Strategic, they increased rates, and they started charging, for contaminated loads of glass that was being brought to them. And I think when they did that, that caused a lot of communities, governments to pull the recycling of glass out of their ordinance.
Dr. J, would you like to take the next one?
I think we're still on glass. Well, specified material include glass. Right now I have to haul glass to Kennesaw, which is a waste of time. And I'm assuming when you say specified materials, you're talking about what's going to be added into the ordinance. I think the way pretty much all of the ordinances in Metro Atlanta read now, it has to do with the economic viability of whatever is being collected. We had to give that as I won't say an optional for the companies that are collecting the material, but if there is no market for a material, then it was pretty much ending up in the landfill anyway. So yes, we are going to refine our list as much as possible. I want to say our current ordinance has aluminum and paper products, specified in there, and then it has that caveat and/or any other materials that that is viable to be recycled. All right, next one. Oh, definitely. Are you aware of severe damage being done to streams, i.e. fallen trees, limbs, plants, washed away by stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces, including county roads? Yes, definitely. A certain amount of, I guess, fallen tree material in streams is, is needed. The county, we haven't met with them in a while. I want to say it's probably been about 5 years ago that we met with Georgia Fish and Wildlife. So like I said, they are the ones that pretty much monitor all of the rivers and streams and, try to assess, the amount of material that's there and whether or not, material needs to be removed. So for our vegetative waste site, we're trying to catch material before it's left, there. But it's only so much, I guess, that we do and what DOT can do as far as getting that material up before, it makes it into, our waterways. But, definitely, we know more effort needs to be there. When people call, I know DOT does a fantastic job of getting out to get the material up. And haven't really spoken to stormwater, but their director, David, haven't spoken to him since the old director, Bill Higgins, was here, but he did have a strong focus on, ensuring that all of the stormwater areas were, maintained clear of material as much as possible. You got the next one, Kim?
I do. So paper and cardboard are recycled in Cobb County, but so are all these other things. So let me just give you a quick breakdown on this. All of the recycling, like the facilities, the MRFs, the material recovery facilities that are in the Metro Atlanta area, they are all integrated systems. What that means is they all have paper mills that they run. That's their main business. So of course, things like paper and cardboard are captured. Boxes that come to you from Amazon, McDonald's, Big Mac boxes, pizza boxes, United States Postal Service boxes. These boxes are actually being made either here in Georgia or very close to us because of the companies that are here. However, plastics are a big deal as well, especially plastics, let's say 1 and 2. So we are the carpet capital of the world. About 85% of all the carpet that's laid around the world comes from Georgia, from Dalton, Georgia. And so that they use the plastic to make the fibers to make the carpet out of. And so they have to import a lot of that plastic because we just don't have enough here locally to really help that industry. And so a lot of our material, because of where we are in the United States, we move a lot of our stuff domestically. There are a lot of places like on the West Coast, like California and Idaho, just places far west from us that did have a lot of challenges sending their material to China when what we call the green sword happened, when they banned a lot of the material going there. But we were moving our material domestically, a lot of it. And so, yes, did we take a hit? Of course, everyone took a hit, but ours definitely was not as bad as some other areas. The material, that's the reason why we also participate in programs like the Hefty Energy Bag, because what we're trying to do is capture all the plastic that we can capture, not only just the 1 and 2s or material that's easy to capture through a regular MRF, but material like plastics 4, 5, and 6 that traditionally are hard to capture end up in landfills. We are able to use a system called pyrolysis to turn it into diesel fuel, oil, and wax.
Stormwater runoff has consequences for both soil erosion and water quality. As Keep Cobb Beautiful playing and advocating for the need to address the consequences of stormwater.
We can't, Dr. J, we can't hear you.
Let me get closer. Can you hear me now?
Well, we can, but you sound a little bit like a robot.
I didn't do anything to change. It must be that time of the day. Sorry. The question was asking what role is Keep Cobb Beautiful playing, in advocating for the need to address consequences of stormwater.
Right. So the way that works is that in the past, okay, do I sound okay, everyone? Okay. So in the past, Keep Cobb Beautiful, as a part of Keep America Beautiful, was required to focus on, water quality issues. However, that portion of what affiliates do has been removed. We only focus on the 3 areas that I mentioned before. That's litter prevention, beautification, and recycling, waste reduction. The good news for us, though, in Cobb County is that we have a whole water department and a water efficiency team and a water, conservation and stormwater, and they're awesome over there. And we partner with them a lot to do a lot of things. But we do support each other a lot of times. We'll do like litter cleanups on the road, and they do litter cleanups in streams. And so as we have an adopt-a mile, they have an adopt-a stream. So we partner with them a lot, but our role is just to support them if they need help doing, whatever they need help with for, their soil erosion. But they've got a whole team over there that handles that, just like we handle what we handle on our side.
The next question was probably specific to one of your slides, Kim. What are those methods used by the midsection of the country?
Oh, that's a good question. So they have a lot of different options there. And I mean, all of them are not necessarily ideal. I mean, a lot of material, what they were going to cement kilns, our material doesn't. So, I don't necessarily want to burn material. And so they just have a lot of different options there for us on the East Coast. I mean, we just had a lot of open land. I mean, material was coming from the northern states down to the south because we had a lot of open land to bury material. And now we're just getting to the point where, our landfills are starting to close. On average, we have about 29 open active landfills in Georgia, and probably about only 60 years left of landfill usage across all of the landfills that you saw that are open. And so that's not good, which when I teach this to students in school, there are people alive today that will see the end of landfill usage, because no one will want a new landfill in their backyard, right? So we have to be good stewards of our environment to make sure that we're able to identify these opportunities and innovations that will help us handle it. The good news is that, to answer your question about some of the people in the middle of the country, when one door closes, another one opens, or window opens, or whatever that saying is. And so the point is that when things happen like what happened in China, and they wouldn't allow us to send material, then you have all these really innovative programs or processes that kind of pop up. People start to think of, how do we handle this material? So even though pyrolysis is a system that's process has been around for a long time, people weren't necessarily using it for what we're using it for today. And we're able to, handle plastics in a different way today. So it gives us the opportunity to kind of think of a new way to look at managing this waste.
All right, Commissioner and Arjho, I know we're a little past. Is it okay we keep going?
Yes, hopefully, if I don't want to maybe disrespect the ones who are having top questions, but there's a very last question from Jim Wallace. He said, "I'm confused. The sustainability project aims to address soil, water, and air issues. So where is the county does responsibility lie for all 3 of them?" And I think this is in relation as well to the community cabinet role. The other questions are more specific really on what you could give in. If it is fine, we could send an email to all of these questions to the participants, but for the interest of time and for the interest of this forum is really knowing now that you know that Cobb County Commissioner Jerica Richardson had the focus of air, water, and soil and its environmental justice agreement and the sustainability awards. So I think in relation to Jim Wallace's question, from my perspective is that how are we able to engage the stakeholders that we are able to reach now to the Cobb County level, and in which areas are these stakeholders going to integrate at what point and be engage continuously if they would wanted to have some inputs for the county level. And on the sustainability awards component, I don't know if there was something done already with respect to one was asked earlier, incentives. Maybe especially on the organizational level, how is Cobb County engaging sustainability groups? How we get to know them? How are they able to contribute really with the various programs of the county? How is that reaching out? Is the sustainability awards a good initiative for Keep Cobb Beautiful or your department to pursue? And there's so many intersecting factors in the environmental justice agreement based on the updated list of Commissioner Jerica Richardson right now that that goes to different pockets of your respective presentation. And I bet you, Commissioner Jerica Richardson, I think it's time maybe to hear your thoughts, because so that we can achieve of ways moving forward, how we from the community perspective, and her as a legislator, that she had this agenda right now, which are those are doable in the short term and which are those maybe in the long term. Where is the Cobb County responsibility with respect to Mr. Jim Wallace's interest?
Absolutely. So I'll chime in because I know, as mentioned, we're certainly over time, but to Jim's point, Jim, this is really a specific, when you're talking about Keep Cobb Beautiful, it's a specific department within the county infrastructure. And so when we talk about stormwater, and I know you know this, but the water agent, that entire agency has the stormwater department, which of course does a lot of collaboration with DOT and occasional collaboration with KCB on some of the cleanup efforts. That being said, that's partly why this engagement effort is even underway in the first place. It's to really look at things in an integrated way, because we know that there are layers that cross over. And certainly previous sessions, every group is able to discuss what their core competencies have been thus far. And with regards to KCB and waste management, they play a vital role within sustainability as a broader topic. Stormwater is one of those topics that fall underneath. And there are certainly, I think there's a minimum of 14 initiatives in the stormwater area alone. But there has been, the goal here is I just kind of pull out what each group really wants to make sure is at the table, and obviously I've had conversations with our county, but this is a chance for you all to engage and hear what the county has been doing from specifically the Keep Cobb Beautiful and waste management areas. But, like I said, I think of it sustainability because I know the passion and expertise that they bring to the table when we go about approaching the integrated format of this. I do want to make sure that we're looking at this holistically. I do want to make sure that this department is not left out as a part of that conversation, because it plays a critical aspect to what we're doing. And Dr. Gibson is over public services. So you've got water here, you've got public services, and you got KCB under public services, and then you've got stormwater underneath water. So you're talking about an enterprise of an organization. So bringing these different pieces together, in addition to bringing the different community sustainability groups together, is what this initiative is about. So stormwater, you even discussed the stormwater master plan yesterday, and what that type of effort is going to require, but that has to be integrated. And if you watch the mobility conversation, I talked about how we can go about looking at new materials for roadways and walkways, pathways, and what that sustainability looks like, so that we can reduce overall stormwater runoff, and what percentage are you trying to reduce it by. But we can't even have that conversation until each group is able to come together, share what their core competencies are, share what is the work that has been done thus far, so that we can begin to synthesize that. So as far as the next steps, from an integrated standpoint, the environmental justice agreement is supposed to be comprehensive in that nature. And if you look at the comprehensive policy agenda that went out earlier this year, if you played around in that tab underneath Building Better Cobb, and I think there was another category as well, the Environmental Justice Agreement, you'll see that there are over 50 items that fall underneath those categories. And so I am going to be looking for a workshop as a follow-up, which Arjho, graciously, as a volunteer on the cabinet, they do this work to bring it all to help me bring it all together. But in that workshop, it'll be a collaborative session. Obviously we want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard. And so the formatting of that is really important, and how we synthesize a draft for the Environmental Justice Agreement. Now, the Environmental Justice Agreement might just call out, stormwater, some specifics, but it may not be self-contained, the actual master plan. It may ask for a master plan to exist. And at that point, that's where water knows this is where I fit into the overall environmental effort that we're taking on, and the promise that we're making to the community, or the agreement that we're making with the community on that. So I hope that answers your question, Jim. And certainly for anyone on the call, if you're curious about, well, who owns what and how are these things split up? And there are historic reasons why certain services are split the way they are, and there are specific scientific reasons for why certain departments are split up the way that they are. And that, neither here nor there when we talk about organizational theory. But for today, this is really understanding the core competencies of what services are self-contained within this office, and how that integrates into those larger objectives, or at least for me, right? What I'm interested in, or what I'm really listening for, is how that can integrate together. And I'm just going to list this out, some of the things that I think need to make their way, and some of the things that are already in there. So the Gateway program is already called out in the list to deal with some of the litter that's happening between counties and some of our big thoroughfares. The stormwater programming is, of course, already integrated into this. Charm centers are already listed as a part of that effort. The River Keeper program is something I'm interested in us adding. It's probably something very similar to the Adopt a Stream program. That's something, I don't know if he's still on here. I don't see him, but it was oh, there he is, Dr. Moulton. In presenting some of that, or the Friends of program as well, is something that we want to expand. And then the other thing that I think needs to be added is the methane capturing program. That's not something that's currently listed. So I'm listening for where the gaps are in what we're representing, so that when we all come to the table, we can have a holistic view of these different pieces. All right.
Yeah.
That's
So
all I've got.
yeah, that is, so moving forward, the next steps with this one is really like, from our perspective, we would love to have like a workshop, because hopefully before the year ends, what is really the most doable one with respect to operations and making things happen, especially sustainability awards. We with respect of incentives, how can people really get engaged to know when they don't know that these are existing? So I definitely don't know if there has been an award system recognizing the community partners, and then the different groups, because there are so many groups in the community that are actually doing the works that were partly like the focus of the county level department. So maybe that this is one, because this could have been annual. We could have started it last year, but we were not able to do it. Number one, pandemic is one reason for that one, and sustainability project just really took off in fourth quarter of the year, but better late than never. So that is one thing. While we're doing it parallel, while we are also working on the subsets of the Environmental Justice Agreement from the perspective of KCB and the other departments in the county level. Integration is really one thing, and the organizational, what's this? It's silos somehow, because there's, the commissioner said, they are what they are now for specific reasons. But if there are hurdles, how can we work around the hurdles and still come up together as a community in support to common grounds? to working on common grounds. So sustainability awards is one thing that we thought of a very good takeoff, because when we call stakeholders, they will be there. They will be able to know as well what are the initiatives of the different departments, because it cuts across. Sustainability is such a very, very broad area of concern, and it is not a responsibility of the government only, but it's really a shared responsibility by everyone. As long as you breathe, as long as you use air, as long as you stay on top of the soil, and as long as we are not 6 feet under the soil, then we should be concerned about sustainability. So that's from my take, is that a possibility, Dr. Jenkins, Kimberly White, like what is your system for this? Because you are the main agency that's making this community-based initiatives happen.
So I will start off by saying that I love the idea of the Sustainability Awards. Keep Cobb Beautiful traditionally has done an award ceremony every single year. It was annual. We have not done it the last few years, obviously, because of because of the world changing. However, we recognized all of there were awards that went out. We recognized all of our businesses that really supported us. We recognized our volunteers that really supported and helped. We always had like a Teacher of the Year award. I mean, we had a lot of different awards, and we've had a conversation with Commissioner Richardson in reference to expanding this and really kind of bringing more of the business community in. So I'm definitely looking forward to amping that up and talking with you, Arjho, about that more if you would like. We can schedule some time to talk about that. I mean, I would love to see that happen. I just want to answer one quick question, because I was sent a direct message and I was asked if I could just quickly talk about why Jim Miller Park is used and not rotated around like our events. So this is really an important one that I thought would even kind of swing back around to what Commissioner Richardson said. The county has almost 800,000 people in it. It's very, very large, right? We don't have really any mini charm centers currently right now. We don't even have a lot of just regular recycling drop-off centers spread all over the county at the moment. So when we have these events, like everyone comes to our event and it's massive. And when I first started, these events, maybe like before I started, the events had like 200 cars. My first event had like 700, but my last event had like 2,500. And we have the same amount of time that we have to get the cars through in service. So we have to be very efficient and effective. And because of that, Jim Miller Park is the largest park that we have. It is centrally located in the county. It allows for cars to get off the road and we're able to queue them in the parking lot and service them. So there's not many places that can handle our size of our events. That's the reason why it's typically done at Jim Miller Park. If we had more charm centers, if we had more places where people could drop material off, maybe, we wouldn't have to, just be focused on just those few events each year.
Well, thank you so much. And if you could, for those that were questions that were not answered specifically, if it is fine for Dr. Jenkins and Ms. White to send them via email, and Ms. Alay will definitely send it to them to give a due respect for people who have spared their time tonight and make effort to get understanding and also appreciate and learn. We are all learning tonight. So with that said, Commissioner Jerica Richardson, last words, and definitely from my end, Ms. Kimberly, I have told Commissioner Jerica and Ms. Alay that I'm committed to this as a citizen and as a Cobb County resident. And this is not an issue that separate from life. So looking forward for that collaboration.
Absolutely. I'll just make one more comment. I have two other things I didn't call out that are on so the waste ordinance is also on the list. It's already there, and the eco incubator. So I think we're good. We're in a good space there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Arjho. Thank you, staff. Y'all are amazing. Thank you, community. Y'all are just as amazing. And have a wonderful evening.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Bye.